So I'm uploading the previous video while I'm doing this, so we'll see how this goes. And I hope it goes smoothly. I wanted to make Judgment 2 because I was in the midst of Judgment 1 and I went 31 minutes, over 31 minutes on that video, and it was just introduction. The importance of understanding that people cannot judge you is in a way that stops the hand of God, the kingdom of God, from operating in your life. If a person could judge you, that means that if God called you, that a human being could actually stop you from accomplishing what God has called you to do. That's impossible. A person can make it more difficult, but then that's iron sharpening iron. That's one aspect of it. Or that's you going through a valley experience, which is a time for you to learn. My overall goal has required me to learn things I didn't think I need to learn. So I've spent most of my life in some kind of school. I went to school of ministry not because I wanted to become some theologian. I went to school of ministry because I was ignorant and I didn't understand how ignorant I was. And the Bible was the first book. Well, Charlotte's Web was the first book, but the Bible was the first book that I actually wanted to study. Charlotte Web was the first book I actually enjoyed reading in Brave New World when I was a kid. So it's not that I didn't like reading. It's just that a lot of reading doesn't hold my attention. Certain books do, like Tuesdays at Morrie's. It held my attention. Small book. But, learning about yourself takes time. At least it did for me. I didn't have a legacy of education in my life. I had a legacy of street, a legacy of and don't get it twisted, or don't get it wrong, or don't misunderstand. People coming from very bad situations have a legacy of going to school and education. I just did. I didn't understand how uneducated I was. So I've spent this last almost 30 years just studying. 27 years or so. No, about 30 years, just studying different things. I studied theology. I studied real estate. I studied insurance. I studied pest control. I've studied radio and television broadcasting. I've taken all these different classes. I've studied bookkeeping. I've studied securities. When I was in the car business, obviously I studied sales. I studied marketing. I've read a couple of books on marketing. You really don't know until you find out. The importance of understanding that no man can stop you from accomplishing what God has called you to is important. And the earlier on in your life, to my kids, my grandkids, my brothers and sisters in Kenya, my brothers and sisters in Ghana, my brothers in Bangladesh, the earlier on that and whoever else this helps, the earlier on you discover who you are in God, and that no man can stop you from becoming that human being that is filled with that spirit. But you're the only one that can limit you. I was talking to a guy last night, and he has a profession that he loves. And I told him what I do. He says, "Why are you doing all that?" Well, for what? How are you doing? Are you okay? So why are you studying numbers? I wouldn't study numbers. What are you doing? He's about my age, 5, 6 years younger than me. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? This is a man that does not want to study. But after some further probing, he has very good relationships and he's very successful. Because there are other people in his life that enjoy studying some of the things that I study. So he has very good relationships. Or some. Stick with me on this because we're talking about judgment. Please don't get lost. I want you to feel confident in that you can accomplish anything that God places on your heart to accomplish. You may feel like you have to move backwards, sideways, forward, too fast. All kinds of things can happen, but it does not mean that God has not called you to accomplish what he has placed on your heart to do. For there to be judgment, there must be a process. Now, as much as I would love to show you that process throughout the Old Testament, it's so widely sprinkled throughout the Old Testament that we just came out of. We're in Deuteronomy 4, but the process of bringing a sacrifice to the people, the process of taking a sacrifice to the priest, meeting up in the, there's just so many things. So I figured I would just run to the New Testament and show it to you that way. It's easier. I hate to say it like that, but it is. It's easier to show it to you in the New Testament. There is a process of judgment. And attached to this process of judgment is a little thing called accountability. Don't think I just came up with this. I've been talking about this for years, and some of the people that I've mentored and talked to over the years have heard this before. But with judgment, there's accountability. So before you get judged, there's actually accountability before you get there. And we were reading in Matthew chapter 18, and that's where it's at. In the previous video, we stopped here. I want you to walk confidently in your ability once you discover what your ability is. The unfortunate truth is a lot of people, even into their later years, still are unfamiliar with their abilities, what they're called to do. You have people walking in callings that they are not assigned to, but they need to make money, so they stay in that calling. They're fearful. You have all kinds of things, and they're speaking into your life. And you're believing them instead of believing the process. There will be people that will no longer talk to you and treat you as though you were trash. I have been treated like trash. I am giving you my testimony. I am not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just telling you how the Spirit works. And you cannot be moved by how these spirits work, because you will be thrown off thinking that you have to please people to operate your talent for God. I said something wrong in two videos ago when I said Jesus died for God. No, Jesus died for us. He was obedient unto death. But he wasn't trying to please you. He was pleasing God. In other words, he wasn't here to live for himself. Just side note, all very consistent. There are a lot of people here to live for themselves. I want to read to you a group of scriptures, and I'm going to stay in Matthew. I'm not going back to Deuteronomy 4 right now. I'm not. I may go back after this just so that I can keep the title. But I'm in Matthew, and we've moved ahead a long way because I want you to see how judgment works. How justice works, how right thinking works, the attributes of God. The attributes of man in judgment are much different. The proper way, what is fitting, what is fit. I want you to see this. It starts off with a few different parables that you don't think fit together, but I'm going to show you the transition words so that you can see they actually fit together. In Matthew chapter 18, he's talking about humbling yourself. Okay, I'm trying to I'm tying together a lot, and it takes some effort. I'm tying together a lot of the scriptures that you think are just separate scriptures because that's the way you've been taught. They're actually connected. And so I want to tie them together as best as I know how to, being led by the Spirit. Tie them together so you see the connection because there are attributes and principles, statutes, and judgments in parts that you don't understand is connected. This is after the little demon-possessed boy was healed and after judgment had been passed on Jesus. So he is mentoring his people. Because Jesus came to die. For over 3 years, he was mentoring his people to multiply his behavior and his mindset. The little boy earlier in Matthew chapter 17 who was demon possessed had to go to Jesus because his disciples were not mature enough to heal the little boy. And Jesus proclaimed to them, if you have faith of a mustard seed, and I believe that this has been missed by a lot of the teaching. So Jesus goes into in Matthew chapter 18 and he shows them some things and some things that have to be corrected in their mindset so that they can be more efficient in their ministry to the people in the world. He further goes on to explain in Matthew chapter 19 the kingdom. But we're not going there yet because it all leads into the kingdom. Again, we're not going there yet, but we're here in this place in the book. I wanted to touch a little bit on 17, but in Matthew 18, because we're coming in the midst of something, in Matthew 18, he's explaining to them, breaking it down to them, very simply in their language at that time so that they can understand something, and part of that is judgment. Except you be converted and become as little children, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. This is chapter 18, verse 4. Verse 5. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receives me. And I want to point out, he's talking about receiving the child now, but he was talking about being the child as well. Verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, in the act of walking in faith, little child is not necessarily someone of age. It's someone of spiritual ability and connectivity. If it would be better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe unto the world because of offenses. Woe unto the world because of offenses. For it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offense comes. That's why it's important to be transparent and apologize quickly. Because you don't want to be the one who do not address your offenses. I know I don't want to be that one. I'm going to jump a little ways. I want to show you a different part of this. And I'm going to show you verse 9, and then we'll go, verse 10. Verse 10, chapter 18, verse 10. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. Do not despise the student. For I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. That's our job. For the Son of Man has come to save that which is lost. In other words, we've come to be the demonstration. As Jesus was. How think ye, if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them gone astray, doth he not leave the 99 and go into the mountains and seek that which is gone astray? And if so be that he finds it, verily I say unto you, he rejoice more of that sheep. Sheep is added, but he rejoiced more of that than of the 99 which went not astray. This is also demonstrated with what people call the prodigal son. Even so, it is not the will of the Father of your Father which is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. He doesn't want to lose not one. But you want to lose one or two and not deal with them or treat them bad, smile in their face and talk about them at their back. Children of God. I'm not talking about enemies, because there are enemies, but they don't work at becoming children of God. Moreover, and this is one of those transition points. Moreover, so we're transitioning from talking about the one we lost, and we go looking out for him. Some people call this evangelism. So we transition from that to Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee. So he was lost. Now he's trespassing against you. His fault between you and him. Now, you're supposed to have a conversation with your brother where you express yourself clearly and he gets a chance to express himself clearly. Fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But, verse 16, if he will not hear, take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of two or three witnesses every word may be established. We're talking about judgment. So that everyone can be heard. Let me tell you the reason why. Sometimes you think one way and it's actually something else. This happens on all sides of the spectrum. So in the mouth of two or three witnesses, they have to be witnesses. In the Old Testament, if you only have one witness, that's not good enough to where we are, and I'm walking you back to Deuteronomy chapter 4, in the sanctuary cities, the man that has murdered someone by accident, you need more than one witness. You need two or three. You cannot convict a man on one witness. Deuteronomy 4. Matthew 18, consistent with the judgment of Deuteronomy 4. Now, if he didn't hear you, only if he didn't hear you, you go between the witnesses. In verse 17, and if he shall neglect to hear them, then there's still a process of judgment, bringing him before the church. Now, this is when, and we've read this, I believe, not in Deuteronomy 4, but we talked about bringing people before the congregation. Might have been certainly in Leviticus somewhere, but also I think somewhere in Deuteronomy, I think we talked about maybe Deuteronomy 3. I'm not sure. Verse 17, Matthew 18:17, and if he shall neglect to hear them, tell unto the church, which is the body of believers, the ecclesia here in the Greek, the congregation in Hebrew. But if he neglects to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen and a publican. In other words, he's not walking according to your belief system. He's not walking according to the kingdom of God. He's not walking according to the hand of Moses. This is the process of judgment. This is the process of being proper. This is the process of being fitting. This is the process of measure. This is the process of fitness. This is justice. This is right. This is deciding a case. This is the case. The case is making sure that no one is offended and being open enough to be a child, to walk through judgment, proper judgment, which is accountability for growth in the kingdom of God, to create an atmosphere called a place, the kingdom of heaven. It ain't about you. It's about the legacy, the history. It's about the consistency between the hand of Moses, which is in Greek terms is called the kingdom of God, it's about representing our Father. It's about dying to self. It's about the dying and lost world where people need to be redeemed. How can they be redeemed if you're throwing them away and ignoring them and using them? How do you not think you're how do we not think we're not going to be held responsible in that time of judgment? When we made the decision to treat people as though they were less than us, when you make the decision on who you would like to save, who your buddies are, CashApp $MrPaulDozier, CashApp $MrPaulDozier. We are on a journey from Genesis to Revelation. I do not know how long it's going to take. This is my personal Bible study. For my sons, my daughters, my brothers and sisters in Kenya, my brothers and sisters in Ghana, my brothers in Bangladesh, and whomever else this is a blessing to. Now, if this helps you, I'm sure it will help someone else. So please like and share on whatever platform that you're listening or watching this on. I would certainly appreciate that. Also, you can Zelle paulcdozier at gmail.com to help support this ministry. Please like and share. Thank you for taking this journey with us. Thank you for taking this journey with me. And God bless you.